we are going to be talking about the principle of unity. Now, you may think about the word united or to unify, about things coming together and becoming one or one unit. And that is exactly right. And I'm going to show you how artists use unity to create that wholeness or harmony in their artwork. I'm going to explain that with some pictures and show you some artist examples as well. So, when we talk about unity, we're talking about a sense of harmony or wholeness in the artwork. Harmony, think about music. If you have really good harmony, it means, person A singing their part, person B singing their part, but when you put them together, it still sounds good, even though their parts are different. So, things that are blending well together. And wholeness, if something is a whole, it's not in parts or in pieces, okay? Something's not sticking out. If you want something to be whole, it looks like a single unit or a single work. Something to keep in mind is if something has unity, a lot of times it does not have emphasis. Emphasis is when something sticks out. And if something's sticking out, it's not whole anymore. Okay. It no longer has that harmony throughout the whole piece, that unity throughout the whole piece, because one thing is not unified with the rest of it. Like if I had a black and white checkerboard and one of the squares was red, okay, that square is not in unity with everything else. It's being emphasized because the color is different. So I have a couple examples right here. The one on the far left with the little babies in sunglasses. Okay. This is a good example of unity. It's the same image over and over again, but the color changes. So the color, the fact that it changes is what we call variety. So everything's the same, but there's one part of it that changes that, makes it a little bit more interesting, but everything still goes together. Okay. In the middle image, we have a different type of unity where all the figures are drawn in the same style, kind of like curvy yet pointy edges, creating their images of the people and their musical instruments. So having that similar line quality is what's unifying that image together. Then we have a box of crayons. Okay. Every single item in the box is a crayon. It's just that the color changes once again, and that's what makes them a little bit different from each other. Artists use unity in their artwork too to make things kind of flow together and blend together. And they do that in a lot of different ways. So here we have Claude Monet's water lilies that he painted in 1916. It is really easy to identify Monet artwork because of how he paints. Things aren't perfectly smooth. Things aren't doesn't look like a photograph. And that's because he worked in a style of art called impressionism. He was trying to get an impression of the scene in front of him. So his paintings, a lot of times, paintings of the same size took hours, days, months, years to complete. His took a significantly less time because he was painting more quickly. And you can really tell by the line quality and the brushstroke quality in his artwork that it looks sort of like swoopy and almost sketchy. And that is something that unifies the entire artwork together, is how the paint is put on the canvas. A lot of squiggly and sketchy lines, whether it is the lily pads on the bottom, the water, the vines hanging down from the tree. It's all painted in a very similar manner despite the color being different. So how he paints it, the style in which he paints it, that's the unifying factor. The variety is that the color changes, the shape of the brushstroke kind of changes because you have a very different shape for water lilies than you do for the vines and that kind of stuff. So that's the variety piece thrown in there. Edvard Munch painted The Scream. You actually might recognize this painting. And he painted it back in 1893. And what is the big unifying factor is kind of like this reddish undertone, okay? And I'm going to explain that a little bit for you. If you take a look at the image, you notice that like you have the brown for the bridge, for the walkway, and it has some reds in it. Then you look at the blue kind of water, it has some like reddy browns in it. And then you look at the sky, and that has a lot of red in it. Everything has like these reddish tones in there. It was not uncommon for artists to mix in one of their colors throughout their entire painting, or even to have a whole layer of that color underneath their finished color. So like if I painted my canvas solid red and then painted this painting on top of it, those red colors would still sort of seep through the layers, and you can kind of see the sort of reddish glow within the paint no matter where I was painting, whether I was painting in blue, black, brown, yellow. You'd still see the reds coming in from underneath because the colors are blending together. So that is kind of like one of the things that unifies this artwork together, is the fact that there's some reddish and red browns throughout the entire image. If we did a solid brown and a solid blue and this solid red, the sky would stand out so much, and we wouldn't notice the figure that's in the foreground closest to us. That's, gives it the title of the Scream. So we don't want to be focusing too much on the sky. We actually want to look at the person. And if the person blends in color with the bridge and with part of the ground, which it does, we wouldn't notice it if not having that unifying color throughout the whole piece. Vasily Kandinsky. Okay, he's pretty cool. And he did this work in 1923. He is more of an abstract artist, meaning that his artworks aren't necessarily supposed to look like anything. He uses a lot of shapes and lines and colors to illustrate, like an emotion or an idea, or just to create good composition or a good arrangement of things to make it look cool, essentially. So he created this work. And the thing that kind of unifies everything together, if you look closely, what kind of shapes do you see? And you see a lot of circles and then a lot of diagonal lines. You don't really see any vertical lines or horizontal lines. They're all diagonal. And I wonder why that is. Okay. So the big unifying thing is the lines and the shapes, the kind of items that he included in his painting. Now look at the circles again. Are they all the same color? No, they're all different colors. They're all different sizes. So the unifying factor is the shape. The variety, the thing that makes them a little bit different, is color and size. Okay. So those two things are what separate these shapes from each other, is that each one is a different color or a different size. Okay. Now take a look at the lines that you have. Okay. What do you notice about the lines? Okay, we got some skinny ones in the middle, and then we have these big, almost shapes for lines that are going crisscross in the background, the yellow and the green, teal kind of colored one. Okay, now the big thing is what's unifying these together. Okay, yeah, they're lines. Okay, they're all diagonal. Notice how none of them are going straight up and down, and none of them are going horizontal. They're going like in an X kind of formation for all the lines. The thing that changes, okay, one is the color, because we have them black, skinny ones in the center, and then the bigger ones in the back are colorful. Then you also have the width of the line. You can see that there's some very faint, skinny lines in the middle, some regular lines, and then we have the really big, thick lines up top. So the fact that they're lines, diagonal lines for that matter, is what connects them together. And the thing that separates them is the line thickness, okay? So those are the kind of things that unify and also create variety in this work by Kandinsky. And now we got Duccio, okay? Duccio is a medieval artist, okay? And there's a lot of interesting qualities that medieval art has. Notice how, we have the Madonna and Child is what this image is of. The Madonna, okay? Mary, the mother of Christ. In Christian history, she is in the dark blue robe in the center, the dark blue kind of emphasizing that she's super important, okay? But we're going to be talking about how this still has unity in just a moment. I talked about emphasis and how, unity and emphasis don't go together. Not necessarily, but sometimes it works out just fine, okay? And then she's holding the child, Jesus, who, if you look at his face, he kind of looks like a very small grown man, okay? And I actually have a video that I'm going to share with you guys about that and why that is, okay? So I'm not going to talk about it right now, okay? So if we take a look at this image, we notice how looks like she's so much bigger, like everyone else around the sides are either really, really short people or she's like a giantess, okay? And in the medieval times, to make things look more important, they made it bigger, okay? Because the Madonna and Christ, they're super important. They're much more important than all of the figures that are around the outside. So that's why those were depicted as smaller people. Okay. Now, despite her being super, super standing out with the dark blue cloak, and then you also have that figure in the bottom right wearing the red cloak, they would normally kind of really stick out. Okay. But they are unified with the rest of this because what do you notice around the dude in the red cloak's head? He got kind of like a gold halo there. Okay. He's a holy figure. So in medieval times, having that halo on there was symbolizing someone who was deemed holy. Okay, so like angels or Christ himself are considered very holy. So they have this halo that they illustrate in their paintings, separating them from normal human beings. Okay, so notice how almost everybody, actually everyone in this painting has that halo. Okay, so that is something that unifies them all together. Okay. Yeah, the colors are different, the sizes are different, but they are unified and brought together as a single image by everyone having that halo around their head, tying them all together in this very holy image. Okay. And just like when we talked about Gustav Klimt, his painting of Adele in our pattern unit, we talked about how he had this layer of gold leaves. So in reality, everything that looks kind of gold on the screen is actually like a real gold. It's shiny, it's reflective. And that's the same thing here with all the halos. They're very shiny. Okay. So there's very cool quality added to the work. Okay. So unifying factor, all those halos. Something that gives it variety is the size of the figure and also the color that the figure is wearing for clothing. So we're actually I'm going to show you a couple like normal everyday examples, and we're going to identify the unity factor and the variety factor in both of those images, and we're just going to run through it really quickly. So here's a work, the thing that unifies it. Okay, look at how they create it. It's all created in line. Okay, so that's the thing that unifies it all together, is the fact that it's made with line. The thing that creates the variety so that we can tell the difference between our person and our background is the direction the lines are going, as well as the thickness of the line. See how we have a darker line going around the outside of the person? It makes them stand out from the background. So unity with line, variety with line direction and line thickness. Then we have this right here. Does this have unity? Yeah, not exactly. Okay, this is a terrible example of unity. Terrible. Okay, so we have a rabbit. It looks like on the moon, and then Earth in the background. Okay, Earth sticks out in this black space. The rabbit sticks out on that brown space. You know, I guess it's unified because we know it's the same image, but it's not exactly what we'd call unity. So this is a bad example of unity. Not unified, but still really cool. How about this one? I don't think it's a good example of unity either. What do you think? I mean, how often does like an eyeball, a giant eyeball, fit in the city in a little park? Yeah, maybe if it was a tree statue, that'd be different, or like a miniature of the city. But it's an eyeball, so that would definitely be not unity, because it sticks out. There's a lot of emphasis there. Its size, its proportion is huge, and it doesn't quite make sense in this space. It looks cool though. So not unity and variety. How about this one? If you're thinking, yes, well, absolutely, you are right. Okay. We have this unifying factor of shapes. Okay. What shapes do you see repeating over and over again? You got that right. It's triangles. Okay. And the triangles have variety because of the colors and values. So there's light and dark versions of colors. And there's also the fact that just regular color is just different. So you got some blues, you got some yellows, you got some browns, you got some greens, you got some grays and reds. Okay. So some variety in color. Okay. So those are the big ones for that one. How about this one? You're right. It is not unity. You have a giant, giant head. I think it's an orange, but it doesn't have the little top thing on it. Anyways, but it's emphasis against, okay? This is emphasis, not unity. We're drawn to the head because the color is so different, the size is so different. It doesn't make sense. It's weird. Okay, so we look at the head, not unity at all. How about this one? Yeah, you're right. It's unity. Okay, so with this one, things that we see that's all the same is the actual vase itself. Now, we can't say that shape is the same because are shapes three-dimensional or are they flat? They are flat. Okay, so when we're talking about things that are 3D that take up space, like a sculpture or a statue or a vase, we're talking about form, okay? Something that has length, width, and height, okay? So the form of each of the vases are identical. They're the same, okay? And you notice how the color changes, okay? So when we talk about unity, we're trying to find the ways we describe a work of art that connects it all together, whether it's the color, the form, the line quality, what is making everything unified and look like they're supposed to match and go together. And with variety, you're trying to identify what about it is a little bit different. So unity in form, but variety of color. Okay, so there's different ones, different options that you can go with to make something look a little bit different, yet make it still look unified, that it's supposed to go together. There's supposed to be a matching set. Okay, so we're going to be working on our unity and variety exercise, and you can refer back to this presentation to help you out as well. And then we're going to get working on our project for this thing. So, sour out.